Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing a Monarch deck profile, and wait a minute, we actually get to make Boral Sword in it. I'm just kidding guys, we don't play Monarch, silly Yu-Gi-Oh players, we don't play extra decks and Monarch decks, what are you doing? So, we're going to be playing around with a Monarch deck, so I'm really excited to play around with this deck because it doesn't actually need an extra deck, and it just got some support with the new ban list of Ether coming back to 2. Which is really exciting because they're bringing back older archetypes like Inzectors, which is a deck profile that I'm planning on doing very, very soon. And they brought back Ether, and they brought forth Cleefort Scout back to 3, which I've been really excited for. So I really wanted to deck profile this one and show you guys how I'm going to be playing it in the upcoming format. Maybe we'll even get Pantheism back to 2 or 3 now. We got Stormforth back to 3, and we have Ether back to 2, so this deck could rise again and make another brick house, which is probably going to happen anyway. So let's get straight on this, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Hit that bell in there so you can become a part of the notification squad, and let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of the bad man himself, Erebus, the Underworld Monarch. So you can tribute summon this card by tributing one other tribute summoned monster. And if this card is tribute summoned, you can descend 2 Monarch spell and traps with different names from your hand or deck to the graveyard. And if you do, you get to shuffle 1 card from your opponent's hand at random, grave, or their side of the field into the deck. And then once per turn during the main phase, if this card is in your grave, you can discard 1 Monarch spell or trap and then target 1 monster in your graveyard with 2400 attack and 1000 defense and add it to your hand. A lot of people forget about that last effect. They just remember when it's summoned, you just send the 2 to grave and then get to rip a card out of your opponent's hand, field, or grave. Then we play 2 copies of Ether, the Heavenly Monarch. I wish I could play this at 3 again, and soon we probably will because this deck is probably not going to be topping anything. This is going to be a fun learner deck. I highly recommend this deck for somebody who's trying to learn Yu-Gi-Oh! Because it's so simple that you don't have to have an extra deck. That's the nicest way I can put this. It's easy to learn, and it's really cheap too. Like this deck is maybe $40. Maybe $40 what I've got tied up in this whole deck. But it's really a good deck, to be honest with you. But when you tribute summon this card, you get to tribute summon it, tribute summoning 1 other tribute summoned monster. And if this card is tribute summoned, you get to send 2 Monarch spell and traps with different names from your hand or grave, hand or deck to the grave. And if you do, special summon 1 level, 1 2400 attack or more and 1000 defense monster from your deck. But return it to your hand during the end phase. And during your opponent's main phase, if this card's in your hand, you can banish 1 Monarch spell or trap from your grave, and immediately after this card resolves, tribute summon this card. This is a quick effect. So it does actually let you summon it on your opponent's turn to build a board if you use up your normal summon on your turn with something like Ida, the Heavenly Squire, and you need to normal summon this out on the next turn. It fixes that problem. So then, for the other 2 Monarchs that I play in here, that is 2 copies of Karaz, the Light Monarch, which is beneficial to you for popping cards and letting you draw or letting your opponent draw. It can be a double-edged sword at some points. So when this card is tribute summoned, you get to target up to 2 cards on the field and destroy those targets. And for each card that's destroyed, that player gets to draw 1 card. So if you destroy 2 cards on your side of the field, you can draw 2 cards, but it can't attack. It can't attack if it destroys 2 cards on your opponent's side of the field either, but that's something that you have to keep in mind, that you can actually pop stuff on your side of the field, like the Prime Monarch that you might not want on the field anymore, and then draw a card. And then this card lets you special summon it, which gets you another tribute fodder. Little combos here and there, like 2-card combos all over this deck. Then I play 1 copy of Majesty's Fiend because it does have the Monarch stats, and it cannot be special summoned, and monster effects cannot be activated. No monster effects. The other one that I play that's my last 2 tribute summons is 2 copies of Vanity's Fiend. I only play 2 in this deck because I've wanted to play that Majesty's Fiend, and it can't be special summoned, and neither player can special summon monsters. That's not that big of a deal because we're just going to be normal summoning anyways for the most part. We don't play an extra deck at all. We just don't. Hey, get out of here. We don't need you. We don't need you here. I couldn't help it. I'm sorry. Then we play 2 copies of Mithra, the Thunder Vassal. The Vassals help you get your your monsters from your deck or your hand on the field by tribute summoning. If this card is in your hand, you can activate this effect. You cannot special summon some monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn. A lot of them have it where they automatically restrict you from the extra deck, which is not a big deal. But you special summon this card, and if you do, you can special summon a Vassal token, 800 to 1,000, to your opponent's side of the field in defense position. Which is not that big of a deal either, because you're just going to attack into it and get rid of it. And if this card is tribute for the tribute summon of a monster, you can activate this effect. You can tribute summon one monster during your main phase this turn in addition to your normal summoner set. Which can help you quite a lot, because you can tribute something like Ether first, and then get the Monarch from your deck, and then immediately summon something like Erebus by tributing the 2 on your field to rip a card out of your opponent's hand and get 4 mills to thin your deck. Then we play Eolus, the Underworld Squire. I always just call him Underworld Squire. But his effect is basically you can normal summon an additional time per turn, and then you can banish it from your graveyard to target one monster with 800 attack or 1,000 defense in your grave, except another copy of itself, and special summon it in defense position, which is going to be Ida, the Heavenly Squire. Which, if this card is normal summon, you can special summon a monster with 800 attack and 1,000 defense, which is always going to be him to get you that additional normal summon. And if it's in your graveyard, you can target one of your banished Monarch spell and traps and add it to your hand, which stuff like your Prime Monarch can get banished, or your Pantheism can get banished, and you want to recover that, which can be really beneficial. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So I know that was a lot to cover, but basically, this summons this. This gives you additional normal summons. This gives your opponent a token. You special summon it and you get additional normal summons. This makes your opponent where you can't special summon monsters. No effects. Pops cards and draws cards. Special summons from deck and mills cards and rips cards off the field. Short, sweet, to the point. But I needed that explanation for you guys. Lets you add a warrior from your deck to your hand. Stops hand traps, which is important. Pantheism is the best card in the deck. I am still really sad that it's at 1. I called it when they hit it, but I think it will come back very soon. I think it's going to come back to 2 on the next list. But you send a Monarch spell or trap from your hand to the graveyard, draw 2 cards, and then you can banish this card from your graveyard and reveal 3 Monarch spell and traps from your deck, and your opponent randomly chooses 1 to add to your hand. Or your opponent chooses 1 to add to your hand, which you're always going to reveal if you haven't drawn them and used them, 3 Tenacity, because Tenacity just says, hey, I add anything I want. You reveal a monster in your hand with 2,400 attack and 1,000 defense, or 2,800 attack and 1,000 defense, and add a Monarch spell or trap from your deck to your hand, which, if you don't have it, is always going to be Domain. Then I play 3 copies of the Monarch Stormforth. Monarch Stormforth basically lets you have an additional normal summoner set, and you get to tribute monsters on your opponent's side of the field, which is pretty cool. I love that effect of being able to tribute monsters on my opponent's side of the field. Then we play Domain. Actually, you don't get an additional normal summon. You just get to tribute a monster on your opponent's side of the field. Excuse me. So Domain is a good 3 of. It's the field spell of the deck that you're going to add really easily. That's why I don't play anything like Terraforming, because this is extremely easy to get to with search cards like Tenacity, Pantheism, and things like that. You actually play like 7 copies of it in the deck, which is extremely easy, because if you summon Ether or Erebus and you send to grave Pantheism, you can reveal 3 Tenacity, reveal a Monarch, and then immediately add this to hand. So you don't even need like Terraforming to get to this. So when you have no cards in your extra deck and you are the only player that controls a tribute summon monster, your opponent cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck. Period. No extra deck monsters at all, which is great. And if a tribute summon monster attacks, it gains 800 attack during the damage calculation only. Now, the really cool effect about this is once per turn, you can reduce the level of one monster with 2,800 attack and 1,000 defense from your hand by 2, making it a level 6. So I can take my Ether or my Erebus and reveal these guys and say, okay, I'm reducing them by 2 and normal summon them for 1 tribute, which can really help the deck with consistency. So then we play 1 copy of March. March protects our monarchs from being targeted or destroyed by card effects. 2 copies of Return is the last spell I'm playing in this deck. This basically is the Searcher. If you summon one that's 24 attack and 1,000 defense, you get to add one with 28 and 1,000. If you summon one with 28 and 1,000, you get to add one with 24 and 1,000. So basically, if I normal summon this, I can add this or this. Or if I summon these, I can add this or this. You can't search Vanity's Fiend because Vanity's Fiend has 1,200 defense. You summon these, you get to search these. You summon these, you get to search these. Essentially. So that's it for the spells. Let's get into the traps. I'm really excited to do an update of this deck. This is actually one of my favorite decks of all time. So we play 1 copy of Escalation, which gives you an additional normal summon. Once per turn during your opponent's main phase or your opponent's battle phase, immediately after this card resolves, tribute summon a monster. 2 copies of the Monarch's Erupt. People did not realize how good this card was when it came out. I did not see that many people playing this in builds, but now it's in every single build at least 1. I think 2 is the optimal number. You get to activate this card while you have no cards in your extra deck and control a Tribute Summon monster. Negate the effects of all phase-up monsters on the field except Tribute Summon monsters. During the end phase, if you control no Tribute Summon monster, send this card to the grave. Skill Drain. Just Skill Drain. That's all it does. Then we play double Prime Monarch. Prime Monarch is, you can either activate it on your field by targeting 2 Monarch spells and traps in the grave and shuffle them into the deck, then draw a card. And if this card is in your graveyard, you can banish another Monarch spell or trap, spell summon it onto your side of the field with 1,000 attack and 2,400 defense, and you can basically use it as tribute fodder. That's all it's here for. So that's it for the deck, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this one. Like I said before, it does not play an extra deck no matter how much you want to. Extra deck Monarchs are, in my opinion, not that great. I think that this is the optimal way to play this deck, and I really hope that they release Ether back to 3 because it's not going to do anything. I don't feel like this card is actually going to do anything. I think for the time that it was in, pre-links, yes. Now, no. I think that this deck would maybe be tier 2. Maybe be tier 2 with full power. So, anyways, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Hit that bell in there so you can become a part of the notification squad, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See you around, guys.